and then they're talking about them and they're reporting them, and there's commonalities between that, and that's a kind of intersubjective verification. They're
That's
saying,
not
listen, we share
intersubjective.
something. So if I look at this,
Something.
if I look at a color, like if I look at a painting and I say, oh, I think that's blue, and you look at a painting and you say, oh, I think that's blue too, then we have intersubjective verification. Do you understand, Brenda?
Was the dress gold and white, or was it black and purple?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's another example.
Black and blue.
Yeah, it's an
That's
example of it not
intersubjective
being
non-verification. Correct.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
We're all on the same fucking page then. Thanks, Brenda.
So
I
my
wonder
question
if
was.
you have to. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to start musing, so go ahead and ask.
I was gonna ask. So you said that based on your worldview, humans don't need a savior. So basically, are you saying that Jesus's validity is based on your worldview?
Wow.
No, but I would say according to my worldview, Jesus doesn't have validity.
So you didn't need God to tell you that Jesus wasn't the savior if you already had your own opinion about it.
What the fuck are you saying?
Well, no. If I don't know how I would know that if God didn't tell me that. Why wouldn't I just be agnostic about that?
You said it was a position that you held that humans don't need a savior.
Right.
So was this?
Where do you think I got that from?
From your own reasoning.
Oh, that's not where I got that from.
Oh, so when you asked God, is Jesus the savior, you had no doubt prior that he was, or did you have a doubt that he was?
Oh yeah, I would say I was filled with doubts. Yeah.
All right, so
Concrete.
you already questioned whether or not Jesus was the savior, right?
How are you going to arbitrate here, Concrete?
He's saying that God confirmed his suspicions.
All right, great. So your worldview existed. You asked God about its validity, and then God told you, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say that anybody that believes I'm wrong about that should take that as a refutation of my claims.
Well, it's interesting what you were pointing to there, Concrete, is sort of what I had in mind myself. Like, I had this experience, and it was a real experience. I was thinking about St. Francis, and I was right there in this tiny room, and it felt genuinely holy. But I didn't bring to it ahead of time any kind of religious belief. So I didn't interpret and probably couldn't interpret it as a religious experience. So there's something about what you already have in you when you have the experience that's going to be changing.
Well,
I think that religious people are going to say, I should have, right? That how am I going to be open to God if I have a religious experience I don't even recognize as a religious one?
I mean, if
There's
three
no
people
greater
have the same
religious
experience, and one is a Jew, or one is a Muslim, one is a Christian, and one is an atheist, the Christian's going to say, Jesus said it. The Muslim's going to say, Allah said it. And the atheist is going to say, you're both fucking crazy. I mean, it's the way it is.
I wouldn't say
And
something like that.
I didn't say you would say that. It's a fucking.
Well, I just mean I'm an atheist, right? I would say, yeah, go ahead.
Helen, I think you're right in that who we are and our expectations really do color how we interpret our experiences. I don't think that's reduced to only religious experiences, and I doubt that you didn't have a religious context. I think we all do. But yeah, I think it definitely does influence how we evaluate our experiences based on who we are and what we already believe and what we're expecting to see.
So you talked about how you already believed when you were interpreting your first experiences, and that in a way you were coloring, you were hoping that you were reinterpreting the experiences that you had to be experiences of Jesus or whatever. But then you talked about how in the second experience, when you came to know through the experience that Jesus wasn't the Savior, that was a kind of a different thing. But how do you know something like what Concrete suggested, that in fact you had made some kind of cognitive decision or something like that, that it can't be that Christianity's got some flaws, And then that colored your second experience.
I think that is definitely possible for like doing an external critique. That's definitely possible, and I think that's something that everyone that talks to me should keep in mind. But I would say that it's just my experience that that's not true, and so
I see.
it's not me reasoning to that and saying, oh, I couldn't be wrong about this. It's just like, no, I'm convinced this is not true, which I don't think is
Nicholas, let me ask you a
persuasive or an
question.
argument. Go ahead.
You said you believe that
But you could be
God
wrong,
created.
right?
Oi, concrete. I'm talking. You believe that God, the unmoved mover, whatever, created all the universe, right? So, do you believe that God could communicate differently to different people in different ways?
Yeah,
Well, then that's the answer, isn't it?
I
All
don't think
this is just secondary to God. To God spoke to you the way that you needed Him to speak to you, and God speaks
So
to
God is
concrete,
sending
and
out
concrete never
contradictory
listens.
messages.
I don't personally believe
None of
that.
it's contradictory. You believe God. You believe God's a personal God, do you not? Concrete.
Yeah. So could you be wrong,
Yeah.
Nicholas?
Yeah was the answer there that you gave. Yes.
Yeah, you're
Just
Your
just
talking
God
nonsense,
concrete
Kev.
is a your God
Nicholas has already
concrete is a
said he could be
personal
wrong.
God.
Well, he
Well,
did say
yeah,
that. Okay,
but
fair
I'm
enough.
convinced that I'm not wrong. So I'm not of the position that I could possibly be wrong. But I
Oh, sorry.
fully admit
What
that
is
from your
certainty?
position or from an external critique, it's quite obvious that I could be wrong.
I see.
What does certainty have to do with anything?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
You
What
do
is
you
your conviction, your certainty is
I'm
irrelevant
just
to the
I'm
truth of
basically
what
just
you're talking about.
I'm telling you what my position is about what I believe that is true. I'm not. I
And
don't
why
believe
do you
that my
believe it?
belief is evidence for you. I'm just explaining to you my position.
Yeah, I understand that, but why? What relevance is your certainty to the truth of
there's
what
no
you believe?
Because he
relevance.
asked me if I could possibly be wrong, and I didn't want him to misunderstand me.
You're not answering the question.
He's
What
not
relevance is your
proselytizing.
certainty that you are correct to the truth, to the fact of whether or not you are correct?
It is relevant in the sense, in terms of evaluating what I believe. Yes.
No,
When I'm being
to the
asked, could you
truth of
possibly be wrong, Nicholas? It's relevant.
I asked what relevance is your conviction, your certainty that what you believe is true. How relevant is that to whether or not it's actually true?
Oh, can people be convinced that something is true that is false? I certainly
That
believe that's
wasn't the
true. Yeah.
question. That wasn't the
Wait,
question.
hold
People
on,
can
Brenda.
believe. I can
Yeah.
believe with certainty that 2 plus 2 equals 5, but that's not relevant to whether or not 2 plus 2 is actually 5.
Yeah, but again,
So,
Brenda,
Brenda,
you're
you don't
not
think there's any
answering.
correlation
Hold on,
between?
concrete. Hold on, concrete. I was
Can I jump in real
speaking.
quick?
Kathleen, let me ask.
The
One at a
the
time.
the comment here is nonsensical because this man Nicholas is not trying to convince the room of anything. He was asked a question about his
Yeah, he
personal
is.
beliefs. No, no,
He's
he's
trying to
not.
convince us
No,
that
he's
based on
not.
his
We can
personal
No,
assume
experience.
that he
he
is
is
trying to convince us.
not.
Yeah,
He was
and
asked
he
the
can speak for
question.
himself, Kathleen, not you.
I think that you should not
It's
interrupt
Guys, one at
me
a
and
time.
you guys are kind of interrupting
Kathleen,
each
I
other, but it
love you.
sounds like
You're
Kathleen's
white
right.
knight.
I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just answering questions.
Well,
yeah,
you're presenting your
no,
case, and
he's not.
you're
Brenda, why are
claiming
you so
that based
belligerent?
on your personal experience, you believe in that you have a belief that that you say is true, right? And so that there's an implication that others ought to take it seriously. I don't see why anybody
I
I've
should
don't
take
also
it
been
No,
saying I
seriously.
don't
there's
think
I
it's
no
don't see that
implication there.
persuasive.
Can I
Yeah,
present
the
an
only
argument against
person,
By
what he's
context,
saying?
it seems to be.
Aristotle,
So
before you
Brenda
do
is
that, if I
bad cop,
may, just
It'll
if,
take me
if
like less than 30 seconds.
well, I
and
just kind of like to
Aristotle
get a
is
point out. I mean,
funny cop.
I've been like
Car
stopping
alarms are
talking with
going off.
everybody. Everybody's kind of interrupting right now, but this man Nicholas has not presented an argument for anything to anybody. He was asked a question about why he himself changed his belief from
Yeah,
Catholicism to just a theist.
Classical theism.
Nowhere in anything that he said did he say this is an argument for why you should believe what I believe is true.
yeah.
He
I don't
has
really
Kathleen
give a
merely
Kathleen's
fuck.
absolutely
I
explained.
correct
don't
here.
No,
really.
you're right,
He
Kathleen.
has
You're right.
He
I
has
I don't
agree with what
merely
you're
care.
saying.
explained. He has
I don't
merely.
care.
He has merely
What the fuck is wrong with Brenda?
You
explained
don't have to continue,
his.
Kathleen, about it. We agree.
Yeah, I don't care.
You're being
I
kind
don't
of
swear
belligerent,
to
Brenda.
God.
Well, I just would like my questions answered.
But it was
I
answered.
never got
Look,
any
his
answered.
intention.
I never
isn't-
got any answer.
It was answered. His
And since
intention
when
isn't
can
to
we not
present an
challenge
argument.
somebody's belief?
And I
Talking about
understand where you're coming from, Brenda, but you got to lay down on this one for a minute. Your questions are valid, but
They're not
he hasn't
valid.
presented an argument.
They're not valid. They're not valid questions because he has not presented an argument. Brenda is asking a question against an argument that was not made. Brenda's questions are
You're
not
right.
relevant to this conversation. Brenda
Right. You're
no
right.
more could be convinced if Nicholas had made an argument.
Kathleen,
The
you're
argument
giving
would
me a
not convince
boner.
Brenda.
Dude, you're echoing whenever you queue.
Well, good. I'm glad. I love you too.
You guys should relax, man. Nicholas is only one guy. You guys are just all dog bombing him.
I get tired because this is what Brenda does every time. Anytime someone comes into the room and talks about religion, Brenda attacks it as if someone's making an argument, and the dude isn't making an argument. He's trying to relay to Helena his personal experience. And that's not an argument. That's just like me saying, oh, yeah, I did some drugs. It was good. What's your argument for that? I don't know. I experienced feeling good. That's the only statement that needs to be made.
As much as it pains me to say this, Kathleen is correct here.
Yeah, it really does hurt when you have to
I
say
thought
that.
Brenda
I
was
think
bad cop.
I think I have.
It's the
I think
same
I have every
argument that
right.
I can say as an atheist. I'm just telling you, I have a certain feeling, right? I don't have a claim. I just exist. So I deserve the right to not be questioned about it, right? So our friend Nicholas is saying a thing about his beliefs, and we should accept them unless he wants to proselytize them.
No, that's wrong.
Yes, that's correct.
I think you should at least accept that I believe. I think you should accept that I believe them, but I don't think you necessarily need to admit that they're reasonable or rational or good or right.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Let me give you a thought experiment, just real
I
quick.
would like to just find out why, before you do, just real quick. Brenda said no, that's wrong, and I'm curious about why.
Yeah, why do you think that's wrong?
Because I don't think people have a right to have unchallenged beliefs.
Yikes.
Jesus. What? Yeah, where is that in the Human Rights Charter?
No, you
So
don't.
they have a right to
don't.
that, Brenda.
You don't.
That's where you bust the Constitution out.
Everybody has a right to
can't
their
stand behind that.
own
talking about.
beliefs.
I'm not talking.
Everyone has a right.
Hold on,
to
let Brenda talk.
Jesus
let Brenda
fucking
talk.
Christ! You do not have
Don't
a
take
right
the Lord's
to.
name in
You do
vain,
not have a
please.
right to have unchallenged beliefs. Every belief is on the table. Every belief can be questioned and examined and challenged.
So you believe you're a woman, right?
Yes.
Stop.
Yes, I
That's
do.
not funny.
I can simplify this for Brenda. So let's say I'm an atheist. Do I deserve that to be unchecked? Can I just walk around and not be challenged about?
What are you talking about?
I'm an atheist. Can I just exist
I think
and
Brenda's
not
a
be
woman.
challenged?
What are you talking about? I'm just saying that
it's this
there
simple.
are no. I don't know what you're talking about.
Can we do, guys, stop. Can we do one at a time, please? This is becoming obnoxious. Just let the guy ask his question. Brenda answers. Civilized conversation.
I'm an atheist. Do I deserve to be unchallenged? Can I just live my life?
Or must he submit himself to
Concrete, shut up, Concrete.
I can't fucking answer your question if you talk over me when I answer you.
What the fuck?
Let her talk.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Well, I start to answer, and it got three people talking all over me. At one word.
It wasn't me, Brenda.
Fuck off!
It wasn't me.
Fuck off!
All right,
guys,
you know
come
how
on,
we
stop
feel
being
every time
guys.
you
You
open
you
your
guys are
mouth in the middle of us.
yeah, but you guys are being rude. Like, just let her answer.
So the question is, as an atheist, no, you do not have a right to hold your opinion unchallenged. other
Says
people
who?
have a right to challenge you on your atheism and to examine your beliefs and see whether or not they are consistent.
That's fair enough, but I'm not proselytizing, so I'm not asking you to believe in what I believe.
Yeah, you may be
So
correct
what?
that you have a right to come in here and say to Nicholas or to me or any of the other Christians, I'm going to challenge your belief. We also have the right to say, fuck off.
Yeah, go ahead.
So fuck off.
No.
Kathleen's a good example in this. She's the
I'm
most
not going
bizarre Christian that you'll ever know.
I am not going to fuck
True.
off.
She
And
really
That
I'm
is a
is.
true statement.
I am
And
not
and she has logical arguments for why she believes it until they're not logical anymore. And isn't that what belief is?
Yes.
What?
No, it's not.
So sometimes
So
you gotta let it go. Let someone believe what they want. Otherwise,
no,
we're beating up our own tent. We're tearing down our own
no, you're
human
wrong.
tent.
You're wrong.
No, I'm
No,
not
you're
wrong.
wrong.
Yes,
I'm
you
not
are.
wrong, Brenda.
Hold on. Don't just
Wrong.
say
I'm
no.
just
Let her
saying.
explain why she
Okay,
thinks you're
okay.
wrong.
Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
Everybody has the right to challenge anybody on the veracity of their beliefs and to
I
do so,
agree.
right, in a systematic way. What we don't have a right to do is to talk over people, abuse them, call them names, use
That's an irrelevant point.
personal attacks. Personal attacks
Yes,
is not
we do.
challenging somebody's belief. I simply ask questions. So I have the right to challenge each and every single person here, and every person here has the right to challenge me on any of my beliefs at any time, and I can defend my beliefs. But they can
Cool.
do so within a set of norms for behavior. For instance, like not fucking talking over me.
You know what, Brenda? You're absolutely correct. The problem is when
Yeah,
people tell
this
you
is
to
getting
fuck
old.
off,
Just
you
mute concrete.
continue
Stop
to go
server.
after them. That's the problem, Brenda, is
I don't
someone will
care.
say,
I don't
it's
care.
just my
I don't care.
belief, fuck off, and you continue to go. So if
I was never.
you do not possess the ability to follow your own line of reasoning.
Yes, I
You
do.
have
I'm
the
completely.
ability, no, you
Kathleen makes
don't.
me
No,
horny.
you don't. You say you have the right to challenge anyone's belief. And then you say
Yes.
they absolutely have the right to tell me to fuck off. And when they say, this is just my belief, fuck off, you continue to say, but why is your belief justified? So you're not following your own thing because they've already told you that they are unwilling to continue a conversation with you, and you continue to move forward like someone I don't know. And by the way, you can't defend your own beliefs because you
Yes,
throw
I
up the
can.
same bullshit to anybody else. Oh, it's just my belief. Fuck off. And then you get
Number
pissed
two,
off and we come
you're
after you. So
misrepresenting
you're
the
just being a
situation.
We
hypocrite,
spend our
You're
days
Brenda.
at the bottom of epistemology, right?
so
There's that.
number one, I can defend my beliefs, Kathleen.
I've
And
never
number
heard you.
two,
Kathleen, let
you're
her respond.
strawmanning the entire situation.
I've never heard you once give a coherent argument for any of your beliefs, Brenda, but you know what? I don't go after you because you have said fuck off. And when you say fuck off, that means, okay,
I don't think I
conversation over.
have
She's
ever
just
told
not
you.
willing to do that. So whatever, Brenda, leave the man alone. He believes in God. You don't. Great. God hurt you. God touched you in your special places and you didn't like it. But they didn't do that to
Whoa.
Nicholas. So leave God's
Yeah,
Nicholas
that's
alone.
just your strawmanning. You're just strawmanning my position. This is I am not a non-believer, right? Due to emotional events or anything like that, as you characterize it. Number two, I continued to question Nicholas because he didn't answer my question, and I never heard from him. A as you say, fuck off. That came from you, not from him. Now you
Well,
can
to
white knight. You can white knight for Nicholas if you like.
I don't need the white knight for Nicholas. Nicholas is perfectly capable of defending his views if he wants to. But he has
Well,
given
this
no
is
reason for me
I
or
don't
anybody
care.
else in the room to believe that he wants to. In fact, he said several times, this is not going to be an interesting conversation. And you keep trying to poke the bear to see if you can cause a confrontation. But the only person you caused a confrontation with is me, not the person you wanted to go after.
Stop, Claire.
So that you're just I'm just not interested in this. I was trying to point out. So
Well, then go
Nicholas is
bye-bye.
claiming.
Claire, let's move the
Nicholas
game.
is claiming personal experience. Personal
I'm not
experience
playing
is
Overwatch
not
right
a
now. I'm
good
doing
source.
Shh,
Is not a
guys,
good source
please.
for veridical beliefs.
No one cares.
It's a logical fallacy.
No one cares.
Sorry, I do care. What did you say there, Brenda? Something's a logical fallacy?
Yeah. Appeal to a personal experience is a fallacy.
Wow.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Don't just say no, it's not.
Well,
Explain why you think that.
If I may,
I
just real
don't-
quick, Kathleen, if I may, just real quick, because I think we're on the same page here. Brenda, respectfully, I don't think you can be guilty of a fallacy unless you're actually making an argument, right? He was simply professing his views, and it's true that you have the right to challenge those views, but he's not attempting to persuade anyone or prove the truth of a particular conclusion.
You can have fallacious reasoning even if you're not talking to anybody.
Yeah,
Well,
I was about to say that.
Well, I don't think he's reasoning at all. I think he's
Yeah,
making
I'm not moving from known facts to novel facts. I'm not moving from a progression through things.
So let's
go ahead.
Sorry, let's have Nicholas and Brenda talk to one another without a bunch of people jumping in. Would that be okay with both of you?
You want to hear Brenda
Nicholas.
interrogate him more?
Shut up, concrete.
Look, it doesn't have to be an
He hasn't had a
interrogation.
chance to even answer her.
Well, I think what was the confusion earlier was Brenda took what I was saying to be an argument, and I can understand the confusion there. And I think most people in the room recognize that it was not an argument, and I don't take it to be persuasive because you don't have access to my experiences.
That's irrelevant.
See, this
It's
is why you
irrelevant?
can't have a conversation
Yeah.
with us.
Kathleen, quit.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. It to the fallacious nature of the claim. So if the claim is, I believe in, I'm a theist because I've had profound religious experiences, right? That is an argument, correct?
Is it? I know.
Yes, it is.
I would think it would be a statement. It may be a premise in an argument.
No, I am a theist because I have had a religious experience.
Right. That's kind of like explaining, well, why is the water boiling? Oh, because it's the heat's being applied to it.
No, it's an argument.
I disagree with you. I don't see how that's an argument. I don't understand which facts are known that are being moved to new facts.
The word because is doing some work there, right? It's saying
it's just explanatorily,
theism,
right? It's just saying the water is boiling because there is heat there.
You're saying it's a description of cause, not necessarily a reason. That's what he's
exactly.
saying.
Well, causes are reasons. I believe that 2 + 2 = 5 because my third grade teacher, the addition tables, right? That's a cause. And that's an argument.
That's an argument? How's that an
Yes.
argument?
Yeah.
I think you just explained that you believe that because you were taught that by your third grade teacher. I don't think that you made an argument.
Yeah, I have.
How is it an argument?
It's saying if in the absence of any other reasons, it would be, well, I know that 2 + 2 = 5 because my third grade teacher indoctrinated the addition tables to me, right?
That's not.
If that's the sole reason given, the assumption is it's sort of like a background assumption that ordinary people would make. Well, you believe that 2 + 2 = 4 because your third grade teacher indoctrinated that truth to you, and that is what makes it. That's what makes it true. It is a claim of sorts.
It's a proposition, not an argument.
So people very often make the claim that based on personal religious experiences, that is why they believe in the truth of whatever religion they profess, it's extremely common. In fact, I would say it's probably by far the most common reason why people actually believe it. It's really because they were, they've had personal experiences, and that's why they believe.
But you don't want to tell him that that's not why he believes, right? I mean, you accept that he was caused to believe by a personal experience. You're not saying that that needs support, are you? Or are you?
I asked the fucking question. The question was based on your why should I believe, in the truth of theism based on your personal experience?
I'm not sure that you should, especially if it conflicts with your own experiences.
Well, it's not about me. When I say why should I'm meaning why should anyone?
I'm not sure that they should, especially if it conflicts with their own experiences.
Right. So your personal experience is irrelevant.
I don't think it's irrelevant, but I don't think it's very persuasive, which is why I don't think it's very interesting to talk about.
Right. And it's fallacious because it's anecdote.
I don't believe it's reasoning, so I don't believe it can be fallacious.
Oh, fuck.
I would agree. I don't think he's reasoning at all. I don't understand how one can apply to a fallacy to.
Yeah. So, what does fallacy mean to you?
What is essentially just a statement?
What does fallacy mean to you?
Flaw in reasoning.
Or a mistaken thinking. Would you say that?
That's a flaw in reasoning. Jesus.
Well, thinking is not necessarily reasoning, correct?
It
Yeah,
is.
thinking is always reasoning.
All right, so then therefore everything is reasoning. So yeah,
Feeling.
it can be
not
your
everything
thoughts.
is reasoning.
So
Feelings are not
if
reasoning.
everything, if every thoughts are reasons or are reasoning, then you can have fallacious thinking.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. You don't need an argument in order to have fallacious thinking.
Look, I didn't mean to get
Thank
sidetracked.
you. Concrete is backing me up. Thank you.
Wait. I don't mean to get sidetracked. Go back to the dialogue between Nicolas and Brett.
Can I just read real quick? I think like if the thinking leads to a conclusion, then you can say, you reason to this conclusion, and that reasoning could be fallacious or it could not. But if there's no conclusion, you're just like, oh, I had this experience. Then
but the conclusion is the statement is, I believe in the truth of theism because I had religious experiences that convinced me.
Okay, then that is, I would say that is fallacious thinking.
And that's what he said.
Because there's a conclusion involved. It's not just like, oh, I saw, or I heard a bird, or I saw this blue sky or something. Like you're actually coming to a conclusion. So that would be, yeah.
So I would compare it to if somebody stabbed you with a knife and you said in your head, ow, and you in that experience, in that saying ow, you'd know you'd be experiencing pain. And there would be no reasoning there. It's not I'm feeling uncomfortable and therefore I'm going to say ow and therefore I'm experiencing pain. It would all just be one thing that's impressed upon you by the experience.
But when you walk away after you've been stabbed and say to yourself, someone stabbed me, now you've got reasoning going on. And so I think what Brenda's saying is you walk away from the experience thinking, the experience is a reflection of a truth. You've made a conclusion.
But the experience was the truth, and I don't expect you to believe that, like to take my experience and do it. But I'm saying it's not that I experience this thing and then reason towards a truth from that experience. The experience impressed upon me a belief.
Okay. Okay.
I feel like we're headed towards a semantical vortex.
There's no reason to do that. Concrete. There's no reason.
No, I sort of see what he's saying. Like it's sort of like in the idea that we can't choose our beliefs, right? So there's a school of thought that says that beliefs are things that are impressed upon us by either internal or external means, and that some of our beliefs are not there in virtue of some sort of like logic chain happening, right? They need no convincing in order for one to believe them.
They assail you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes, I was
yeah.
assailed
So
by the belief in God.
that's right, and a lot of people are. I was right, like I was when I was a Christian. That was sort of the same thing that I used to appeal to when I was asked why I believe. And I think this guy is right to not to not hold others accountable in virtue of the fact that he's had some sort of personal experience. At least that's the gist that I'm getting from him.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so there are a lot of Christians out there who, like Darth Dawkins, for example, who I think would do the opposite. So I don't see that as like a negative.
There
I
are a
don't
lot
think
of
Nicholas is
examples.
trying to justify it any more than we are, right?
What do you
There
mean
are
God assailed you?
there are a lot of examples of that sort of assailing in philosophy. I don't want to get into it too far, but the view that, for instance, intentional states can't be inferred, they are just observed, right? That's how you know of an intentional state. That's similar to what he's talking about. There's no reasoning going on when you acknowledge some entity has intentions. It's just in virtue of your experience of that entity.
No.
So just to
It's a
reiterate,
presupposition, right?
I don't think I don't think labeling a statement like that, a statement like I had an experience of God, or sorry, I believe in God because of an experience of God. Like I don't consider that reasoning, and consequently, I don't think saying that's fallacious would make sense.
Yeah, again, you're trying to relitigate something we already agreed
No,
upon. It's a waste
no,
of
no, no.
time.
Look. The
No,
idea. I sort of agree with what Brenda's saying, right? Because uh, the thing that you have to keep in mind is that when someone says, right, like think of the experience that they have, right? And someone says, I believe in God. You can transfer that over to like an actual argument being made, which is that God, in fact, exists in virtue of this experience that I've had. But that can be a non sequitur, which can be fallacious, right? That would be a non sequitur. Like think of like if I was in my house and I see my refrigerator move on its own, and I said, "Oh my God, God exists," right? It's coupled with the conclusion that's being made that makes it fallacious. It's not just saying that God exists.
house fairies. People used to believe in house
That's
fairies.
right.
And
But
if
Nicholas
I
is
was saying
insisting that
I
that's
had
not
this,
what happened to him.
yeah, I'm not saying that I heard a voice and therefore I know God exists. That's not what I'm describing.
Right. I was about to say, Declan. Normally, I'd agree with you. In most cases, when people make a statement like that, it is essentially just hiding an argument. But in this
Nicholas,
case,
can you
I think what
summarize
he's
your experience quickly?
Oh,
excuse
Logan
me.
was in the middle of talking.
I think what he's describing is no different functionally than recoiling your hand after touching a hot stove. I think he's simply describing a response he had to an experience, and I don't
No, I
think that's
agree with
reasoning.
you. I actually agree with that. I'm sort of like from where I was sitting at, it seemed to be like a misunderstanding of what Brenda was saying, and I think Brenda's on the right track as far as like calling out something that is fallacious if in fact it meets the criteria that was outlined by her.
Sure.
There seemed to be some
The appeal
confusion
to
on that.
personal experience is not appeal to personal experience is simply not a valid argument for something's existence. It
But
simply isn't.
he's not making an argument though, is the point.
That's the key. Yeah, he's
He's
not
just
reasoning.
walking by.
Correct. He's describing a response to an experience, just as drawing your hand away from a hot
I
stove is a
believe.
response.
Okay, well, I believe in the truth of Harry Potter because Harry Potter. I had personal experience involving, uh, um, um, you know, the College of Wizards.
Okay,
Nicholas, are
but
you
So
trying
it's
to
true.
prove something to us?
hold on, dude. Jesus. Look, I understand what you're saying, Brenda, and if you were trying to use that as justification, that's when we move in the realm of rebuttal against it,
Yeah,
right?
but
But this guy is
if I come in here saying that, and I'm just saying that, I'm just walking by, as you say, my position is people have a right to challenge me on that. If I say that, um, the Undiscovered Country is the best Star Trek movie, and
I agree.
the other right, and somebody disagrees with me or something like that, they have a right to challenge me on that.
I'm not
They
saying that
also
you
have the
don't.
right to say, I really don't have any support and don't care. I
No,
just want you to know who I am.
Well,
I'm
straight.
not. I'm not saying
Go ahead,
that
Nick.
you don't have the right to do it. I'm trying to clear up what I think is a misunderstanding here, which is that just because you are saying, look, I don't think you have grounds for your own personal belief, just in virtue of an experience that you've had, it's different in the
Well, since
sense.
when was it
Go ahead.
problematic to challenge somebody's beliefs in here?
It's not. I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just. I was trying to clear up what seemed to be a confusion, where it seemed that you were under the impression that he was offering that as justification. Like he was coming in here and saying, not only do I believe it because of my personal experience, but you should also.
It's
And it
also
seems that he's not doing that.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
it's
you're fine.
also important to note that he qualified this entire conversation by saying, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I don't expect you to believe me. I don't expect you to think that I'm making an argument here, right? He made that qualification a couple times. So it just seems weird to attack him on the basis that you think he said something fallacious when he's not even reasoning.
Right, and that's a position we all have to respect. If we're going to want
where
our
people can.
positions respect, it isn't fair to, if someone says, I'm not trying to convince you, here's my point.
Well,
And I'm
here's the
sure
thing,
some-
right? Here's the thing.
So
We already.
Pogan, you know, I'm going to get this out if it kills you. So Pogan, I perceive this space as a place where I can do that, where I can challenge anybody on any belief at any time.
I didn't say you couldn't.
That's my understanding. That's my
Yeah, but people
understanding.
attacked her.
Challenge concrete then.
Brenda, I'm
All
not
right, here's the
saying
thing.
I'm more than happy to.
Sure, let me respond.
Wait,
Brenda,
Pogan, please let me say
I'm
something.
going to respond
please.
and then you can follow me.
Okay,
Brenda,
great.
I'm more than happy to concede that you have the right to attack people's beliefs. I'm simply telling you that in my opinion, given the reasoning I've put forward, I don't think your particular attack on his beliefs makes any sense at all. Because you seem to be lobbying a fallacy that wouldn't apply given he's not reasoning. So feel free to attack his beliefs, but do it in a way that is coherent is all.
Yeah, I think Poland's got it exactly right. I would expect you to laugh at me more than I would expect you to believe me. Go ahead.
Yeah, hold on one second. So we already agreed that reasoning is thinking.
I simply asked a question.
And so therefore, you can have thinking that is incorrect, right? So we already agreed. So repeating that he's not reasoning, and so therefore he cannot be fallacious, is just ridiculous, right? Because we already agreed that thinking is reasoning, and thinking can be wrong, right? Number one. Number two,
thank you.
when he claims that he's not making an argument for his position, then again, that is not an actual situation because he said, "I am a theist," right? So that was his claim. Then the question next is why. Now this is where the argument begins because now he would have to substantiate his position, which is give a reason for why he is a theist. That is what he did. That is what he proceeded to do, which present his
All right, hold on,
argument
concrete.
as to excuse me.
Give
What
him a
he
second.
proceeded to do was present his argument as to why he's a theist is because he had a personal experience with God.
He admits the lack of reason in his argument, though, doesn't he?
I had a personal
right. So
experience
he
with
gets
God.
to have that right as a person.
Well,
He claimed lack of reason in his argument the minute he walked into the room.
Just real quick, Aristotle.
Yeah,
Look,
even he claimed it. It doesn't. What happened in actuality is that he
let him have
actually
it.
did.
Concrete, I think you're conflating.
You're just moaning right now, Aristotle.
Just concrete, real quick. I think you're conflating giving a reason for something with reasoning in the sense that one would be producing an argument. So the reason I recoil my hand after touching a hot stove is XYZ. Doesn't really matter what the explanation is. I'm just describing a phenomenon, right? I don't think stating that, making a statement like, I recoiled my hand because the stove was hot, for instance, is reasoning. I don't think it's reasoning in the sense that you're talking about. So when he gives a statement like, I believe in God because of some personal experience, like I said before, that's functionally identical to just saying, I recoil my hand because the stove is hot.
I don't think they are.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Anyway, what were you going to say?
I accept Christians
gonna
say that faith is the reason. I accept that. That's where it ends.
All right, hold on, Aristotle. What did you say, Helen?
I was going to say that it seems like what's at the bottom of this both Concrete and Brenda is sort of just, I don't really believe that that's what happened. I think, in fact, you made a conclusion after your experience.
Exactly.
And that's sort of a different kind of thing. So she's saying that there's a tacit argument that's gone unstated. That argument
But he did admit
did
to not
resolve.
having any reason for it, right?
Well, he's saying that. But I think that Concrete and Brenda are suspicious. That's what I think is happening.
Understandable.
No, it's not even
Sometimes
a
you just gotta
suspicion.
let it go.
Do you think I reasoned my way to the stove being hot because I recoiled my hand?
I don't even know what this guy's talking
Nicholas,
about.
are you trying to prove
Yeah.
a point or not?
I
That's the
don't
question
think
here.
that's reasoning. I don't think there's an argument there. He's
Yeah,
just
what
I'm not
happens
proving a
is
point. I'm not
your
making
hand
an argument.
recoiled.
Reflex
Yeah,
isn't
we
reasoning.
understand. First of all, I agree. He's not making an argument. Nicholas is not making an argument, and I agree with that. But I think
Aristotle, relax. Let her speak. Go ahead, Han.
I would argue that after your hand recoils, right? You witness your hand recoiling, then you do reasoning. You go, "Oh, the stove was hot. That's why my hand did that."
That's
So
not what
that
Pogan
is
was
coming to
talking
a
about.
conclusion.
The stove.
That's
The
not what I'm
stove is
describing.
hot. Yeah, the
I thought
stove
you
is
said
hot
you
for a
conclude the
person.
stove is hot after you recoil your hand. I
No,
thought that's what you
he's
asked.
just describing a response, much like you pulling your hand back as a response to the stove being hot. Like we're not
I
talking about.
understand, but I understand that. I just thought right now you are asking a different question because you said, do
No.
you think I reasoned that the stove is hot when my hand recoils?
I think
But if
I
maybe
think
you didn't
that's
mean to say it that way, that's okay.
I think that's the source of the confusion, right? We're just talking about the event itself, not any post event reasoning or thinking.
Yeah,
In
but
the event
framing
itself, could I just please finish? Thank you. During the event itself, you'd agree, Helena, no reasoning is occurring, right? No argument is present, tacit or otherwise, right? Like when I recoil my hand from the stove, I'm not reasoning.
For some reason, she wants to say that reflex is reasoning, but reflex happens at a
Who,
level.
me? No.
You did when he first said that, Helena.
No,
you did.
what he said was, do I conclude the stove is hot after I recoil my hand? Is that
Yes.
reasoning? That's different from what he's saying now, which is during my reflex, is that reasoning? Of course, reflexes are not.
I think you misunderstood him, or you
I think he
misunderstood him.
misspoke. That's all. It's no big deal.
I do think you misunderstood me.
Yeah, I think you misunderstood him because I understood him
Oh
perfectly.
well, it's all sorted out.
So I
We
don't
can
know
move on.
why.
Without interpretation.
Oh, 1 second, please. I don't know why Pogan is trying to characterize someone's conscious decision to believe or not believe in a deity is equivalent to fucking reacting to being burned on.
I would deny that it was a decision.
Hold on. Look, that was the whole point, right? That's what I was saying before. Is that I'm not exactly sure. This is the way that I lean. That with beliefs there is a decision. The whole point is that we are so, like for example, right?
You should read Belgrami with us.
When I saw my wife, I thought to myself, God damn, she's fucking hot. When I first saw her, right? But she pulled into a little subway and we met there. It was like 10 years ago. Okay, now I didn't choose to believe that she was hot. Right? It was in virtue of external variables that impressed themselves upon me, namely her tits and her ass. Right? And so
this guy here.
So the point, and I'm being a little jokey, but the point there is that if you take that scenario and apply it, I mean, I would think to just about anything. I'm willing to be corrected on that, but just about anything. It seems that our pool of beliefs form in a similar way, right? Like I don't choose to believe that blue looks the way that it does, right? Or that it's beautiful, right? I can't choose to find brown not as appealing as like green or red. And I sort of think I've always sort of had the feeling that when it comes to these worldview issues, like believing that a God exists, for the most part, that we react to them in the same exact way. Like it's in virtue. This is why so many people speak of personal experiences. So when he says something like, I believe that God exists in virtue of personal experiences, it is akin to me as me saying, I find my wife or found her at that time extremely attractive. Right. And there was no logic chain that went through that I had to convince myself of that. It just like, or not Brenda, but Helena said, it assailed me in a certain way and impressed itself upon me in virtue of those external circumstances.
Yeah, to bolster that with a reference to Bill Grommy, since Helena brought it up, I pointed this out earlier. It's exactly the same process that occurs when you know, we'll say, that an entity is an agent, has intentions, right? You're not making an inference according to Bill Grommy. It just,
What?
as Declan put it, assails itself on you.
I didn't catch that. You
Yeah, so
brought
all
it
he's
out
doing is
for me.
repeating the claim.
Bill Grommy
Can we,
doesn't say that you don't make inferences about other people's intentions.
Can we
No,
make a
that they're
bill?
no, that they have intentions in the first place. Like you don't infer. This is gonna we're gonna get into a tangent here, but Bill Grommy
Yeah,
doesn't
let's
say.
not go on the tangent.
Yes, Ferris, please.
Can we get a Bill Grommy
So,
jar
but
for the server?
I
Like
think.
every time you mention, we have to put 50 cents.
But what do you think about what I was saying? That what I think is going on here is that Concrete and Brenda just kind of aren't buying this story. They think that, in fact, you had an experience, and afterwards
Sure.
you reasoned to a conclusion about the truth. And so they're just kind of not believing that the experience assailed on you a belief of truth.
It's an unexamined prior belief or something like that.
I think that's
so he had an experience.
I think that's tantamount to accusing him of dishonesty.
Oh my
but I
gosh!
don't know why
No, not dishonesty.
There may be an accusation in there or not. It doesn't matter. Regardless, I think it would be fairly reasonable for them to assume that about me.
I mean, we're just looking at
present an argument or not.
We just look at the natural process that normal human beings go through regarding different propositions, and we're just saying that you've used what we all use, right? You had an experience, you rationalized it, you logicalized it, and then you adopted it or you rejected it.
I think a lot of the things that all of us believe, each of us believe, are not based on reason.
That's aside from the point, right? In this particular event, this particular.
Well, it sounds like you're making the claim that we reason to all our beliefs, and I'm just saying I don't.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, for the most part, we do. That's what we're saying. We're looking at the average scenario for the average human, and we're saying that this is most likely what happened in this.
That's not necessarily true. Want us to be convinced of your argument?
But look, that was the entire that was the entire relevance of Declan's story about his wife, right? The view that beliefs can be impressed upon you externally without you reasoning to them. And for you to say
from Wolf, please?
For you to say that he reasoned to the belief despite him saying, well, number one, no, I didn't.
Yeah, those are our suspicions. You're right.
I'm saying your suspicions. I'm saying your suspicions are unfounded. Is what I'm saying.
I didn't hear.
No, not when we look at the not when we look at the greater body.
Pogan said. Just hold on. Just to piggyback off of what Pogan said. There are, for example, basic beliefs, that foundational beliefs that we have that we don't reason for. Like we reason from them. We don't argue for those kind of beliefs. So I mean, it's not like we need to read the dictionary.
I didn't hear Declan claim that he had a belief imposed upon him. I didn't hear him say that.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah,
that is what he said.
That was what the whole point was.
A little bit complicated because Declan's example is about qualitative states and not really propositional.
Right. So
if I didn't believe Declan's story. Sorry, 1 second. I didn't believe Declan's story. I think he was just trying to earn points with his wife because he knew she was overhearing the conversation.
Jesus,
and it was just a really heavy-handed attempt at getting some
loving tonight.
So if I suddenly find myself hungry, I don't feel like I've had the belief that I am hungry imposed upon me.
Really?
I conclude that I'm hungry based on my. I conclude that I'm hungry based on my discovering that in fact I have a rumbling in my tumbly.
No, you don't.
Clearly, you've never been in the
Hold on. Well, this is let's test this.
I'm
Let's
sorry.
test
Can
this.
I just right quick, please? Did I misunderstand? Or did you say he was attacked by a spirit?
No.
Okay, thank you. That's all. I
Assailed.
misunderstood.
You said assailed. Assailed by a spirit, right?
No, by the truth of a proposition. We're talking philosophically assailed. We're not talking about something attacking someone.
Okay, I apologize. Apologize.
You need to do more of that, Molly. Thank you.
Let's test this. Can you, for me, Brenda, choose to believe that the wall to your right is an elephant?
Is what?
An elephant.
Or
no, is it?
so.
So,
Right.
Declan, all you're saying is that
hold on, concrete. Hold on, concrete. The point there is just to say that I mean, you form a belief about the wall to your right, or where if there is a wall next to you, wherever your wall's at, in virtue of what it is, right? It impresses itself upon you in virtue of its ontology. Now, I know, like, Helen is correct there. Like, I was speaking of, like, I guess, qualitative states, but I think it operates in sort of the same way when it comes to propositions, right? I mean, we form propositions all the time based on qualitative states about the things that that the referent is. So it sort of works. I have a hunch in that same way. I'm not like an expert on this, but that seems to be, if I could put a finger on it, what this guy is saying. He's saying he can't choose to believe that the wall is actually an elephant, right? To him, it's actually a wall, and it's a wall in virtue of the experience that he's had, namely that it's a hard surface and it's painted white and there's paint on it and it has a certain dimension, right? You input the variables, i.e., God, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that's a perfect analogy, but it's close. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
so
not the
here's the
same
problem.
because there's a difference between an outer perception and what he's describing.
Let me put my
So it's
cards
like
on
there's
the
an
table.
inference view, there's a perceptive view, there's a constitutive view about propositional knowledge. And the inference view is a real view. It's not crazy or anything. I'm going off on a tangent, so go ahead, Brenda.
Yeah, let me put my cards on the table. I make inferences about my internal states all the time. So I make an inference based on various perceptions that I have, that I'm hungry, that I'm tired, that I am sad, that I'm happy. I make inferences based on whether or not I am experiencing maybe, it could be something like, let's say, if I'm with a friend or something, and I notice that I'm being really really irritable, but I don't really notice it. But I ask them, am I behaving irritably? And they say, yeah. And then I pause and reflect, and I think about my past behavior. And based on my reflection of my past behavior, I come to the inference. You know what? Yeah, I am being a little bit irritable.
Can I
It's
ask you a
probably
question,
because
Brenda?
it's probably because I'm overly tired, hungry, and I worked really.
Brenda, how did you come
So
to the belief that you could use inferences?
why can't I use inferences?
No, but I'm saying you believe that thing, right? You believe you can use inferences? How did you come to that belief?
Yeah. I don't understand. I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay.
Look, I don't mean to be. I'm trying my hardest to be nice
I make
and
inferences.
respectful.
I make inferences all the time. I make an inference that when I turn the knob on the door will become unlocked and it will swing out. Right.
So I'm trying my best to be cordial here, but like the idea that when the idea that when somebody is hungry, they run through an argument, and I put it in chat, like, my stomach is rumbling, stomachs rumble when we're hungry, therefore I must be hungry. The idea that people run through that argument to conclude that they're hungry is just ridiculous.
Wow.
It's a real
I do it
view.
all the
You don't want
time.
to need to call it ridiculous.
I think it's normal.
That's just an argument. Is that an argument from incredulity there, Pogan?
I think you
absolutely.
I don't think you're being reasonable in saying that.
Well,
If you're trying to convince, Well, let me
Pogan,
finish.
Pogan.
I'll explain without being interrupted, please. If you're trying to convince the room that you run through that sort of inference to conclude that you're hungry, and it's not simply a phenomenal reaction to, say, your stomach rumbling or a sensation you experience, yeah, I don't think you're being genuine.
Brenda,
No,
may I?
I am. I'm totally genuine. This is
Brenda,
how I
may I?
think.
Brenda, may I? So here's a scenario for you, Pogan. That's pretty normal. I'm sure a lot of people go through it. You wake up in the morning and you're behind on your work. You probably missed your alarm clock, so on and so forth. So what you do is you immediately get to work. You immediately start getting dressed. You go to work, and then next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock. Right? You woke up at 8, and you've been immersed in your work because you're behind, and it's 11 o'clock. And then you just you realize that you're grumpy or you're not feeling well, and so then you have to try to figure out why is that the case, and then you realize I didn't eat. Do you think that is a abnormal scenario?
I don't think it's analogous.
Okay,
Well,
great.
that's exactly what I'm saying. It is. I think that we make
I don't think it's
inferences.
possible for me to respond to you without getting really angry. So
Yeah, because you're a shallow thinker. Sorry.
No,
Hey, you make
I wouldn't
arguments
say
of
Pogan's a shallow thinker. I would say that you have the ability, if you try, to examine and reflect on your own internal phenomenological experiences, right? And to examine them and to question them and to see, for instance, you know, that tightness in my throat that immediately precedes my belief that I'm thirsty. Well, then I can refer to that in other times. That sort of grumbling in my
Brenda.
stomach. Oh yeah, that's me being hungry, right?
Well, I think this is
Or
consistent with my view, though, right? In the sense that that rumbling in your stomach is akin to the hard surface convincing you that it's a wall.
Yeah, you're
exactly.
pointing to how the inference view kind of collapses into the inner perceptive view.
That's right. That's right. So, I mean, no one is saying, at least I'm not saying, that sometimes there is a thought process to discover, right? The key word being to discover what the state of affairs are or what the truth of the matter is. All I'm saying is that if my stomach
a
is
little bit more
rumbling,
depth.
if, if
So I go ahead.
if
Hold
my
on, let me
stomach
finish.
if my stomach is rumbling, right, and I feel that pain in my stomach, I don't choose to believe that I'm hungry, right? It's in virtue of those external or internal, I guess, in this sense, in the sense that it's inside your body, variables that cause me to believe that. I can't choose to believe that I'm not hungry after feeling that, right? It's still
I think I
consistent, I
can.
think, with my view.
So
Oh,
I can give a little background.
I agree with that.
I can give a little background on why I think this way and what led me to that is because I've had a great deal of group therapy in what is called dialectical behavioral therapy, and in that
I get
therapy,
that.
people who suffer from anxiety disorders and other mood disorders, and including depression, which is my case, we were taught by the therapists in those group therapy sessions what is called riding the emotional bullet train, and the technique that people are taught is to attend to their own internal states and to interrupt certain chains of events as soon as possible. And so then the idea is that people can interrupt the a chain of events sooner and sooner with a little bit of effort and a little bit of work. Particularly people who suffer from anxiety disorders, because anxiety
Oh,
up in the
you
hospital because of anxiety, right? And
And
so
where
we
does
were
this
taught.
technique come from? Where does
This
this
has come
technique
from
originate,
dialect.
Brendan?
It comes from Marshall Linehan's dialectical.
Linehan. Where did Marshall Linehan, the creator of
Sugar, don't.
TDP,
Sugar, no,
No,
you're
no,
not gonna.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
yes,
get into
he
no,
that.
did.
I'm not gonna
Brenda
get into the
exactly
clinical
no,
where
efficacy.
this
no.
technique came
Oh,
from.
sugar.
No,
It
no,
did not
sugar, you
come
shouldn't be
from
opposed to this
Sugar,
stuff.
shut the
This is
fuck up.
dialectical
sugar.
behavioral therapy. Marshall
So it's based
Linehan
on.
Sugar.
very clearly says where she got it from. She
Shut
says
up,
Sugar.
where she
boy.
got it from.
That's not.
So
what
the
this
point
is.
the point is
Continue, Brenda.
Yeah, so the point is that I have been educated, I believe, by my therapist over many years to interrupt thought processes sooner and sooner, so that I don't get into depressive cycles, or and also, well, for one example would simply be eating disorders. You learn to indicate, to understand, your feelings sooner and sooner, so that you can interrupt, and so you don't suddenly find yourself, eating. Well, I've never had an eating disorder, so I don't know what the exact process is. But that's the point.
Right.
Is that I believe that I can, um, I can, with effort, I can interrupt and understand where my, what we usually call emotional states, earlier. There's a chain of causal events, and the sooner and sooner you can interrupt them, then the more control you have over them.
I get
And
it,
so
Brenda.
that's the foundation for where
Have
I'm
you
I'd like to
ever?
I'd like to run you
No,
through a
and
thought.
no. Can I just
I'm
say
finished.
something really
I'm
quickly
finished.
because I've done the DBT thing.
Have you ever worked
Brenda,
on
I
your rage
agree with what you're
quits?
saying. I agree with what you're saying. I don't know how well it's working for you, Brenda. I know it's worked for me. It's under the umbrella of CBT, of cognitive behavioral therapy,
Yes,
and
yes, it
I'm
is.
such a drunk and an addict that I needed the DBT, and it's really been very helpful for me. But that
Yes,
doesn't seem
yes.
to explain how your own personality tends to ask the questions it asks, right? So you may be keeping yourself from dying like me, but that doesn't change my questions.
Wait, you're dead?
Okay. All right.
I'd
No,
like to
I'm here, and I would be dead probably without DBT.
let's run through a thought experiment just real
How is
quick.
everyone having their lives saved by dick and ball torture?
J-
I'm so
just
confused.
just real quick, let's run through a thought experiment. So you're driving, right, in busy traffic, and you're about to make a turn or whatever. And just as you start to turn, after yielding, after following the law, doing the right thing as a driver, somebody very aggressively, very rudely cuts you off. And you beep your horn, yell out the window, "You fucking asshole," whatever, anger, right? Did you infer that you did those things in virtue of the fact that you were cut off, or was it simply an experience in response to a phenomenon?
Um, there's a problem with my internet. I'm hearing dropouts quite
Did anyone
quite
else hear me?
frequently of what you said. Could you repeat part of what you said?
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
I
the
got.
simple answer is
I,
both,
I already
Pogan.
I
They're
already
not
spoke it.
mutually exclusive.
You get
So
cut
so
off. You get cut off in traffic
and
rudely
then
after following the law.
yeah, and
You
I
get
get
angry.
immediately
You yell
angry.
out your window.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in an anger. Yeah, I understand the question now. So yeah, in a somebody, let's say that somebody does that happens, and they get into an altercation. They go to court. The court says, you got to go to anger management. Anger management would teach them exactly what I've been talking about. They would teach them to recognize the signs of their increasing rage at an earlier stage, so that they could interrupt it before it gets to the point where they're like beating somebody up on the side of the highway, right? So that's what. So you would learn to recognize those internal phenomenological signals that go on in your body
That's not what I'm asking you.
before you, because I think that you being angry, there are precursors to you being angry, and that you would learn to recognize those precursors, right, and interrupt the causal chain that would lead you to suddenly finding yourself in the middle of the highway pulling a gun on a stranger for cutting
Well,
you off.
Let me clarify what I'm asking. At the time you get cut off and you get angry and you yell and beep your horn, are you telling me that you reasoned to the conclusion that you were angry? Did I cut out?
I would.
No,
You
you're
did for
giving an
me.
exception. He's
You
giving
did.
an exception to where you have like an excited utterance, where you get to the point where your behavior is reflexive, and he's asking if you think even those kinds of things are involve inferences and perceiving your own internal state and things
Why
like
go
that.
so
I think it's
complicated?
easy to say that that's an
Yeah.
exception. That's a reflex kind
So
of.
why couldn't we say that Nicholas's event that he described was reflexive in the same capacity?
Well, if I'm sure that if we looked at religious experiences in general, we don't have to involve Nicholas, but we could say in general, they involve a release of endorphins, a flooding of experience, of a feeling of universality, of connection with the world. Certain regions of the brain would get stimulated, but I don't think you conclude based on that. I had a religious experience. No, you had a phenomenological experience, but the conclusion that this was a religious or theistic experience is not justified.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
And
hold on a
and
second.
in your opinion is that
can I go?
it
Can I
does
go
involve
next?
reasoning.
Now, I wanted to
And you can
respond
say
to.
that without accusing Nicholas of being
So
dishonest.
I
I
wanted
just
to.
want to. Can I just say
I,
something real quick?
No, let Declan go so I can go next, please.
Go, Declan.
I'll be really brief, right? Because I wanted to explore. I felt that I'd be dishonest if I didn't respond to what Brenda said in rebuttal to what I was saying, right? But it seems like it's still consistent under my view in that all you're doing is changing you're providing another experience to be impressed upon you in order for your propositional attitudes with regard to the situations to be changed, right? Like if my hypothesis was not correct, was not correct, we would assume that you would need to do dialectical behavioral therapy in order to change your thought process so that you could come to different propositions about yourself or your state or your person, right? So for example, if we were the types of people that could just come to or not come to but could choose to believe the opposite of what's actually happening to us or something that seems to be um, in virtue of what it is that we're going through in that context, I would assume that I could just say I could convince myself, well, I'm not depressed, right? And then not be depressed. Or I'm not having anxiety right now, right? And then not have anxiety right now. But I think that your example actually reinforces sort of my hypothesis, Brenda, in that in order for your propositional attitude to be changed, it requires a separate phenomenological experience, i.e., the experience of going through, the certain, because I've been through part of it too, right? Going through the certain like rituals and ways that you could stop your reason chain to lead you to those conclusions.
I think you're saying that what Brenda's taught, the new topic we had, is compatible with what you were saying originally, and that you don't see any incompatibility. And I think that's fine. I wanted to ask Pogan. I would like to stick just a little bit longer on the idea of, uh, no offense, Nicholas, just using you as an example. Why is the reading that what happened to Nicholas is similar to the accident or the angry outburst? Why is that no good for Brenda? Or at least I wanted to hear what Pogan wanted to say in response to the idea that nonetheless there was a conclusion being made after the fact or something like that.
I guess I just take him at his word when he says that's not what occurred. I'm more responding to the objection raised by people like Brenda and Concrete, which seems to be that he's smuggling in a conclusion.
Pogan.
Yeah, I believe in God. That's his conclusion.
Pogan, I have a response to something you wrote in text.
Okay.
Okay, so let me. Oh, you said you think I'm being dishonest because I think that there's no experience that doesn't involve an inference. I think that for us ordinarily, that's probably true. We know now that there's two types of thinking. There's fast and slow, and I don't think that we have conscious access to fast thinking. Fast thinking is the kind of is not accessible to our consciousness.
What do you mean by fast thinking?
It's a book.
There's regions of the brain that process the information. You don't have direct experience to the phenomenological world. Your experience is mediated,
I'm not following.
but you don't see through your eyes. that's not how it happens. You have your experiences happen in V1. They don't happen in your eyes. There's no such you can't um, you can't look at the color purple and not see purple. Nevertheless, purple does not exist in the
Is
physical
there
world.
any visual information that I know that didn't start there?
I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, Brenda.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing as purple. There is no color by such as purple. It does not exist. Nevertheless, you see it, and you cannot not see it because your fast thinking part of your brain tells you you're seeing purple, and therefore you will see it. That's not you're not seeing the world. You're not experiencing the world unmediated. You don't have unmediated access to the world.
I'm still not following.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's laid out.
It's common, right? The commonality of what we all experience is important to this conversation, no?
Yeah, so here's my characterization of the sequence of events that Nick is talking about. So I guess in moment one, you have an experience that you attribute to God. Moment two, you say God exists. Moment three, the feeling fades, and moment four, you start rationalizing and remembering that which you experienced in moment one, right? And then in moment five, you realize you accept that you did have that experience, and you choose to believe that that experience was God, and there is your choice to believe in God.
Are you just saying the experience of purple is a product of certain brain states, Brenda?
Yeah. It's your brain confused.
I would answer concrete by saying, do you choose to remember that you saw purple?
Yeah, so when we're talking about God, is not anything as definitive as the color purple, nor as definitive as a wall. So,
It was
making
very
choices.
definitive for
Willing
me.
to argue that we're both not seeing purple?
Making choices with regards to those um fucking realities or whatever is not the same as when you're dealing with an ethereal being such as a god.
Concrete. Can you argue that we're both not seeing purple?
I don't even know what that means.
How can you not know what that means?
It just sounds like
When I look
uninformed
at
question.
purple and you look at purple, could you argue that it's not purple?
Do you think God is equivalent to the color purple? The God concept?
So
it's a pretty good movie.
I was just thinking the
Sorry?
same thing, Seth.
Book. It's a book.
Didn't they have Oprah
Bye
in it?
bye, concrete.
Yes, it's a movie with Oprah in it. God damn it.
Yeah.
God damn it, it's a book.
Wasn't there?
And for those of you who are wondering who I was,
Please stop yelling.
No, please continue, sir. We all enjoy it.
Wasn't there a scene in that movie where she's like, "Them boys stole my milk"?
No.
I don't see what's funny about that.
I'm going to
Well,
ask
I
you
mean-
again, concrete. Concrete, can I ask you again?
That kills women. Kill women.
Reality. It's a product of your biology. It's a product of your fast thinking, not your slow thinking. The slow thinking is what you're
Right.
familiar.
But Brenda, I'll include you in this question. Is there any time where you or me or concrete could disagree on that purple is purple? And then how would you argue against it?
Aristotle, I think the more interesting angle there is if she thinks purple, for instance, is just a product of brain states. There doesn't seem to be any delineating quality about anything that would have us believe it's not just a product of a brain state, right? This conversation, the universe, Brenda herself, me, evidently we're all products of brain states, unless you
Sure.
I also don't see how you
I can
could
agree
see
with
a
that too.
series of brain
But
states
are
as
we
reasoning.
looking for usefulness or not?
Well, I'm simply saying that her view would entail that. Basically, I'm suggesting that her view could entail solipsism, and I think that's not a direction she would want.
Exactly.
I
But where would
don't
her
think it
view
does.
ever entail
How
that
is that?
purple is not purple to everybody else?
Yo, this is not the same, dude. I don't know why you keep trying to ram it down our throat.
I fell asleep and I woke up and you guys were still talking about the same
No,
shit.
no, you're still asleep. You need to wake up now.
Alright, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, you're kind of.
Thank you, Pogan. We appreciate you.
I'm willing to be explained to why I'm wrong.
It's
So
not that
please
you're
go.
wrong. It's that you're arguing stuff that we're not really talking about.
All right.
Night,
I
Pogan.
apologize. I apologize. But I think from what I heard from Concrete and from Brenda, that does it matter that the color is purple? Like, how are you trying to prove your point? It doesn't make sense to me.
But the point was in response to a question that Pogan posed. What he thought that I say that there are no that all experiences are um, inferences, and I would say no, not all experiences are inferences, but most of them are, right. The experiences, we have some primary um, phenomenological experiences, and these come to us from the parts of your brain which you are not conscious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go
So
on.
for instance, for example, there's that famous well, simple things like the colors, lines, darkness, things like this. This is actually processing that's done in parts of your. You don't have like a pipeline to your eyes, right? Uh, there are neurons right
I
behind your
agree.
eyes that do a certain. There are neurons behind your eyes that do a certain amount of signal processing, and then it runs through several cascades before it gets to V1, right? It's not.
Can I
It's
ask a
actually
question though,
information
Brenda?
sparse. It's actually information sparse. That
True. You're right. It's true. What you're saying is true. But is purple ever not purple?
Well, by definition, it is. It's like asking me if unmarried men are always bachelors. Yeah, they are.
Right. So can we just lean on the end of our epistemology and get to where we can survive as a human species?
What type of
Are
And
you?
Brenda,
I
isn't
have
that what
no
you're
idea
going
what you're
for?
talking about.
Don't you want to be accepted?
No, I
Yeah,
don't
he's
want to be
high off of
accepted.
flower power. He's on flower power
I
right. Love,
sounds
peace,
like
Not
and
he's
not really.
happiness.
No, I understand. I'm not really on flower power. I think that's unfair.
This has been
Concrete.
quite the puppet show.
Obviously, I'm
Love,
not
peace, and
schooled in
happiness.
philosophy, right? But it doesn't take much to understand that we're arguing against, we're arguing fucking
We're arguing
against
against
points
love,
that don't
bro.
matter.
And we need to argue for love and not against love.
You should read
Okay, Concrete. That sounds great.
even the
But that's
Buddhism
not
book.
really what I'm saying. Is purple ever not purple? And when is it not purple to some people? That's where Brenda's argument lies, right? She's talking
No,
You're
specifically.
no.
colorblind.
Brenda's not talking about that.
Aristotle, I think you're getting hung up on the wrong thing.
I might be, and I'll agree that it's
If you fell
possible.
asleep, then
This
I
this
don't know if
debate
you
is
could
played
track it.
out. Let me have these two atheists right now.
Okay,
They need to
Uh-oh.
no.
Go and mute
Let
it,
me say
sugar.
something right quick. So what? So
Is that
no.
my buddy
So now,
Seamus?
if I may, right quick. See what Sugar's about to say is the DBT is religion because he's going on the Eastern Buddhist mindfulness bullshit kick of the Eastern religion and saying that that's everything that's by DBT. Well, see, that is actually in contention because some believe that, but some also do not follow that it comes from a religious source. So you can shut the fuck up right now, Sugar, because I already explained what you're trying
here
to
is an
explain.
excerpt. Okay, thanks,
Okay, here's
Molly.
an
Thanks,
expert
Molly.
for
Now let me
you.
ask you.
Okay,
Here,
here we
no,
go.
here's an expert for
Hold
you.
on, Molly.
Donkey,
Settle down a little
no,
bit.
no,
No,
no, no,
Aristotle, he can't be let.
no.
You
You're
can't
not
let
doing this.
sugar
No, you're not. You're
bull
not.
rush
I
You're
this.
muted
not.
him so
You
you can
no.
talk, Molly.
You are not going to jump in the middle of this conversation to try and go, it's religion and religion is evidence and religion what you've said it all in side chat. Shut the fuck up, put the dick back in your mouth, and just go sit on your damn fucking earthing pad.
Oh, fuck.
Jesus.
I love you,
Jingo!
Molly. Molly, can you be my girlfriend?
I'm married, sorry.
Molly's just saying that that's going to change the subject.
Yo,
Yes,
Helena is
but
a good cop.
yes, he will change the subject
And I
and
admit
go
that
on
I
a
kind of did that
tangent.
when I walked in again. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, not you, not you. Molly's telling Sugar that if he starts talking about it like this, it's just going to change the subject entirely. And we really aren't interested in that
Is that what
particular
Sugar does?
talk right now.
What Sugar did
Guys,
is he
I'm
heard
gonna.
a buzzword when he came in,
Just
and he just hyper focused on that. It's irrelevant to the conversation. I would not unmute him.
Okay.
If you unmute him, ask him where
Django!
trees get their carbon.
I'm sorry, Seth.
If you only unmute him if he can correctly answer where trees get their carbon.
But see, if you ask him that question, he's just gonna derail
no, yeah, just
everything.
don't. Yeah, he'll do well. He's going to do well.
I have a topic
He
for
said,
Helena for later.
This was a really fun conversation, and I just want to say I'm really glad Nicolas came, and I hope he comes back some more and sparks more really cool combos like this.
yes, this
And
was
Pogan, you
great.
were fantastic. You were fucking fantastic, Pogan.
Yeah, bravo to you, Pogan. You did really well. Yeah, and
This is
thank
garbage.
you,
That was a
Alex,
good
for coming.
conversation topic.
Just keep Sugar muted. He can spout his donkey shit inside chat all he likes.
Yeah, so Brennan and I clearly showed that Nicholas did not do a good job supporting his belief systems or substantiating
For crying
his.
out loud.
I'm Johnny Cochran.
Concrete, it
Brenda
wasn't.
Johnny
is
Cochran.
Marsha. What was her name? What was her?
Oh, what was her name?
Anyway,
Marsha. I don't know, but I know who you
Marsha
mean.
Clark.
That's it.
there you go. Exactly.
Is calling a claim uncontroversial a William Lane Craigism? Did that start with William Lane Craig, or at least the
He's
proponents of
fond of
that
doing that.
debates?
I'll
He's
tell you
fond of
what.
doing that. That's for sure.
I'll tell you what. If that's not it, stating that you're gonna outline two basic contentions definitely is, because he says that in every fucking debate. Tonight, I'm going to put forth two basic contentions.
There's a lot of stuff that William Lane Craig does that I don't see in earlier debate forums that we all do. Like we've all taken notes from William Lane Craig.
Well, he's the best debater in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
Say so and so reports.
He might be. He's really good. He's really good.
Have you heard that, Seth?
You're breaking up, Brenda.
She said that William and Craig will go so and so reports all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's when he's making an appeal to authority, because he's just citing a single person in favor of his argument.
Oh.
So he's saying the reason you should believe this is because this authority figure believes it. That's your contention.
And typically
no.
The consensus view in the field that he's talking about.
Do you know where he gets his sweater vests?
Where?
Brenda? William Lane Craigslist.
Ban him. Ban him.
You can't ban that. We need that comedy relief. We need good segues.
He's got to do the dad jokes.
Nobody bans Seth. Seth and I have an agreement on the terms that he is to be in the server. There's money involved, and let's just leave it at that. Seth stays.
I was promised tasteless, though.
But there is no negotiation on this. Seth stays no matter what.
Wait. Now I'm learning something. There's money that can be involved in negotiating better deals in the server. Can I have a price list?
How much was it to ban Layla for a week yet?
No, let's not go there, people.
Yeah. Don't know what you're talking about. Just you know what? anything
kind of
about
sounds
that.
like Dottie.
Yeah, you're just making stuff up there, Claire. It's
Yeah.
what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
just
It might be
we've moved on from that. We are not. Yeah, that's all in the dark past. Moved
Claire, you
on.
gotta
It's
don't even
all
know
in
what you're
Claire's
talking about.
mind.
Right. So if
You gotta
Tom,
kind
if
of.
you published a price list for certain favors in the server, that might actually be profitable.
The thing is, Tom's not Krill, so we aren't doing that, right?
No.
How much to ban Brenda for every?
This was great. Once we got over everybody personally attacking everybody and all that bullshit, look at the great convo we fucking had.
How much to give sugar
So
admins?
I'm kind of drunk right
That's what
now.
happens. That's what happens when you allow me to speak.
No kidding.
You guys want to hear anything from me or not?
Tooth. How could you say that?
To
Just
like
teasing.
give sugar admins.
Oh, fuck me.
Krill would give Sugar admin powers. So would
Oh,
Goblin.
absolutely.
Oh, then I will never hang out in a Krill server then.
So can you guys give me at least a little credit for shutting down that fucking retarded conversation that went on for like 3 hours while I
Oh,
was
see, I was
What do
gonna
you mean
use
that was your
retarded?
plan. That was your
Retarded?
plan.
Oh my god!
Soft
It was like
Listen,
the best conversation, and you're happy that you
No,
shut
it
it
was
down?
great. It was great. It was great. No, I agree. I agree. I heard what you said. It was really great.
It was great, but it was retarded.
Actually, that was a really good
Can't say that word.
Why would you say that?
I,
It was
ha-
a really
I
good
grew up in my
convo.
own home with 2 retarded kids. My family members are retarded, so I
You
don't
and
really
who
care.
else?
My first cousin and
we
my
don't
first
use that
cousin
word.
in my own home.
That's 3.
We
Your
don't
first
use the
cousin.
R
Including me,
word.
yes.
When you say that's 3, you have to say 3.
If I ever need help making jokes, you're the
Don't
last
ask
person
me,
I'm going to appeal to.
motherfucker.
Look, Aristotle, you ever watch basketball?
I played ice hockey as a kid.
So you're
That
familiar
is
with the
not
practice of
special.
substitutions.
12 years.
You're familiar with substitutions then, right?
Penalty box.
Yes.
Well,
Not in a philosophical sense, though. In an empirical sense.
I mean, look, sometimes some of the best players need to come out of the game to rest, so they can save their energy for when it really counts. Just gonna go ahead and sub you out for a little bit right now, and we'll just have to.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Understood.
And
So I'll
yep.
mute myself. How about that?
Okay, sure, yeah.
So you can see that as me understanding what you're saying, and then I can assume that you won't mute me in the future.
Yes.
You can understand that I'll mute myself.
It was just a substitution, right? Yep. Sub. Even LeBron James gets taken out to rest. Bring him back in the 4th quarter.
Did you hear Dave Chappelle's bit about LeBron James being transgender?
No.
He's like, so what do we
I gotta
do
go.
if
I'll
he...
see y'all later.
All right, see you.
Okay.
Good night, Danny.
Thanks for coming.
Sweet dreams.
What would we do if he declared that he was a woman? Like, would he keep playing in the NBA, or would he go to the like WBA or whatever it's called and score like 400 points per game? It was a good show. You guys should watch it. This new comedy special.
I heard it was good. I heard that audience reviews were very high, critic reviews were low. Or
I generally take that to be a good sign.
Yeah, well, not for Transformers the movie.
I don't watch those films. I think I saw the first one.
Yeah, well, go watch Transformers the last night, and then you tell me if that's if that's something that's good.
It is something. I think it's bread and circuses. I think that it is really providing something that people are getting something out of.
Yeah, but look at The Last Jedi, right? That had like 96% rating for critics and audience review. Garbo.
With who? Critics or what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
High
Wow.
critics, low audience. And the movie
I
was
really
garbage.
like The Last Jedi myself.
Oh,
I'm
you know
actually
what?
surprised about
Just look, are you familiar with basketball, Nick?
You're breaking
Who
up for
said they
me,
liked The
sorry.
Last Jedi?
Are you familiar with basketball, Nick?
Nick says he likes The Last Jedi. Nick's correct.
What? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
It wasn't bad.
Nick is correct that he likes something?
You know what?
No, that it's not
I
bad.
am correct.
You know what, Seth? I'm altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
I don't take Star Wars movies all that seriously. They're movies about space wizards. The Last Jedi was serviceable, just like all of them.
Space wizard.
Yeah, that's Space Wizard, right?
Some of
Right.
us walk
I
around
feel
with
the same
lasers
way
and
as
More
Seth, I
deep,
think. Yeah.
like societal commentary. They're just
Yeah,
action movies.
yeah.
Everyone's
Seth
not
is
all, like, up
Seth is the kind of atheist who opens the debate with like referring to Sky Daddy. You know, I mean, come on, Space Wizard. What the fuck, man? Fuck you. Teslas was right about you.
That ain't right.
Nick, I hope you're serious, because if it turns out you're joking, I'm twisting in the wind here.
No, I'm serious, and I totally agree with you, Seth. Is that I don't think that any of them are really terrific films. I think they were great for their time, like especially the originals. But I don't think